Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. If this is your first time here, my name is Jody. I love watches. If you also love watches, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel by hitting the big button that says subscribe on it. If this isn't your first time here, I'm sure you're well aware that most of what I do on the channel is focused on the $500 US or less end of the market, and within that price sector I try to mix in the big brands, Seiko, Casio, Orient, Hamilton, etc., with a lot of micro brands. I think a well-chosen micro brand can be a fantastic addition to your watch collection, and today I'm going to present my top 5 favourite micro brands for 2020. 5 brands that I think should be on your radar, should be on your potential shopping list if you are indeed in the market for a micro brand watch over the next 12 months. Now, I made an earlier version of this video towards the end of 2018. I think I perhaps had one too many coffees before I took the photo for the thumbnail. So there's a few brands that have carried over from that video and a few new ones on this year's list. Before I get into that though, and why some brands have dropped off and where some others are, I thought I'd go over very briefly, hopefully, some of the pros and cons of buying a micro brand watch as opposed to a mainstream watch. Some of the pros are, I think they offer fantastic value for money. These are generally one man, and let's be honest, it is mostly men, one man operations. You don't have shareholders, no middlemen, that great straight to market, cutting out the middleman. And as such, if the brand owners choose to, they can offer some incredible deals, as I'll talk about later on. As a result of them being one-man bands, you're often dealing with the company owner directly. If you send them an email, if you send them an Instagram message, you'll get a reply from the man who designed the watch, from the man that owns the company. And that, I think, is a little bit special. You certainly don't get that when you buy a Hamilton from the Swatch Group or a Seiko, for example. Another benefit of buying a micro brand watch is exclusivity. These watches are still made in the hundreds, but not the thousands necessarily, or certainly not the hundreds of thousands like some of the big mainstream brands. If you find one you like, chances are you probably aren't going to see another one. But there are a couple of negatives or potential negatives to factor in if you're considering buying a micro brand watch. Obviously, these companies aren't as well established. One of the great questions is, what if I need parts? What if I need support for this watch in 5 years time, 10 years time, etc.? Will the company be there to support me? Well, all of the companies that I've chosen on my list today have a reasonable track record. They've all been in existence for the last 4 or 5 years minimum. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. That's one of the reasons why I picked them. Generally, the only thing you'll need to maintain on a watch is the movement. All of these watches use generic off-the-shelf movements. Any decent watchmaker should be able to service them or replace them, so I don't necessarily think that that should be a big factor if you're looking at a micro brand. One that should be though is resale value. If you get your purchase wrong, or you're a bit of a flipper, or you just change your mind in 6 months or a year's time, micro brands will not necessarily be as easy to sell on as a Seiko or an Orient, for example. Again though, all watches that I've chosen today I think have got very strong residuals in the second-hand market. So what's on my list today then? Only one real criteria, and that is I have to have had hands-on reviewing experience with at least 2 watches from the company. So I'm not recommending stuff to you based on a potential one-hit wonder. Now obviously I haven't reviewed every single micro brand out there. If your favourite micro brand is not here, please leave me a comment. I would love to add a few more to the roster for 2020. So what's not on the list? What's dropped off from the last time I made it? Well, Nezumi Studios, little boutique brand from Sweden, they haven't actually released anything new. A few different colorways but no new watches, so I didn't feel they were worthy of inclusion on this year's list. On that basis, let's see if they release some new models over the course of the year. Similarly, Borealis have dropped off the list as well. Nothing wrong with the company, I still recommend Borealis watches, but they're still doing this 50% now, 50% later pre-order system, and I think given how mature they are as a company, it's probably time that they moved away from that model, had the confidence in their own sale figures to get the whole production run out of the way, and then just offer units for sale. Plus I wanted to mix it up, I wanted to add a couple of new brands. You won't see Spinnaker on the list today. I review a lot of Spinnakers, but they're not a micro brand. They're a massive brand owned by the Dartmouth Group, and some of their watches, wooden bezels, I'm not sure about that at all. You also won't see Phoebus on the list today. I think Phoebus makes some great watches. The Eagle Ray Bronze, the Eagle Ray GMT and their PY007 Submariner homage are genuinely fantastic, but there's a couple of clunkers in there as well. The Great Wall and the Sentinel I think aren't all that fantastic. So I've gone for companies that I think you can see a consistent design philosophy, not just a scattergun approach to try and sell as many watches as possible. Brands that have got a firm idea of what it is they want to bring to the market and are executing that plan. Enough waffle, Jody. Let's get on with today's top 5 micro brands for 2020. And I'm going to start with one of the new companies on the list today. It's Trask Ax. I think Trask Ax are the smallest and the youngest of the 5 companies that I've chosen to show you today. They're only on their second watch, and it's this one, the Summiteer. Now, I reviewed the Summiteer towards the end of 2019. It's a Rolex Explorer inspired watch, but I think that's what Trask Ax do. They don't just do an homage. They come up with a reinterpretation of a classic rather than just a rehashing of a classic. These ones shipping there in February 2020, as it says, for $500. Clearly inspired by the Rolex 369 Arabics, you know, and it wears very similarly proportioned, but look at that beautiful bowl on the dial, different handset, the prominent second hand, Trask Ax branding, very pretty. This one powered by a Miyota 9000 series movement, which I think is just about right for the price, and it really is the devil that's in the detail in these Trask Ax. I think that's what sets them apart from other micro brands that don't have the same look and feel. Look at those chamfered edges, look at the dual layer to that high polished bezel, look at the details, look at the Gordian knot, that's the Trask Ax logo. You'll find it on the dial, you'll find it on the crown there, you'll find it on the clasps. All very nice. Again, I think a lesson in how to come to market with a brand new project and brand it properly as well to create a strong identity from the get-go. And it just wore fabulously this Summiteer. Wore exactly like the Rolex Explorer, and if you've ever had the pleasure of wearing a Rolex Explorer for any duration of time, they're such an easy all-day, everyday wear, and this one had that same light feeling on wrist. Check that clasp design again, very nice little chamfered edges there. Now their first watch was the Freediver, and I reviewed this minty fresh example in the middle of 2018. Again, it's a 40mm diver that doesn't just clone the Rolex Submariner. They're now into their second iteration of the Freediver. They've released some new dial colorways, the blue one, the black one, the grey one, etc. They're still doing that minty fresh one that's become a bit of a Trask Ax signature, and as you can see there, they're sold out of just about half of the models already. So again, proving that in a saturated market you can bring a product, people will really appreciate it for a bit of design originality and a firm direction that you want to take your company in. This is some sneak preview footage. I've managed to snag myself one of those grey dial Trask Ax Freediver 2s. I'll be reviewing this one, I would imagine, next month, February 2020. I'm expecting big things of this company. I think that's 2 out of 2, 2 really good watches from their first 2 examples. I'm really excited to see what they do next. Following Trask Ax, it's a firm channel favourite and a brand that I'm sure you've heard me mention on more than one occasion, ZLos. ZLos can be considered the kind of vanguard of the current micro brand boom, the wave of micros sweeping the world. They formed and released their first watch in 2014, so they've been with us for 5+ years. Creating a diverse range of watches, mostly divers, but there's an ever increasing spread to pilots' watches, and I believe Elshan Tang, the owner of ZLos, is launching their first dress watch later on this year. They're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. As you can see though, some people like them. Sold out. Most of these watches are sold out. They do a launch special price system. They launch watches at one price at a certain time, kind of generally 3 to 4 weeks after they launch them, the price goes up. Fair spread of sizes as well. This is a ZLos Mako at 40mm. They go right up to 44, 45 for some of the bigger, chunkier hammerhead dive watches. This was a stunner. This was the Sky Raider pilot's watch. Look at the skeletonization on that one. Look at that ETA 6498 in the back. Just beautiful. Meteorite dial, again a forward-thinking company. Watches designed in the 21st century for the 21st century. Lots of modern materials. They've got meteorite dials, lots of bronze, lots of forged carbon as well in recent releases. And lume is one of their specialties. They tend to go for this two-toned look, mixture of C3 and BGW9. They've got an ardent fan base, ZLos. If you look at the ZLos Facebook group, it's a big healthy group with lots of activity, People worship these watches. There's people with 5, 6, 7, 8 ZLos in their collections. They've got a bit of a cult following. As such, their residual values are exceptional. As I said, they do a launch special price. They generally sell out at the launch special price. You can almost speculate on a ZLos. You can buy them early in the right dial colour, flip them for a profit later. You can't do that with too many micros, can you? Now this one is the Horizons. It's a 40mm but wears almost like a 38. Cute little bronze GMT. Like I said, if you've got a smaller wrist or just prefer your watches a little bit smaller, ZLos haven't forgotten you. The two that I reviewed most recently are the Hammerhead 2, an absolute behemoth at 250 plus grams and 18mm thick. And I've got some sneak preview footage here of the Mako 3. Elshan sent me a couple of these. Again, I'm going to try and review them before they're all gone because most of them are sold out already. This lovely guilloche whirlpool pattern on the dial here as well. Very nice indeed. As I said, they're not going to be to everyone's taste, these ZLos. They're kind of 11 out of 10 in terms of the styling, the loom crowns, you know, there's a lot going on. But at generally well under $500 US, I think they offer fantastic value for money when you compare it to an Orient, a Citizen, a Seiko, one of the kind of more mainstream dive watch models. These are the Swordfish 2. I reckon the Swordfish is a bit of a Seiko killer. I've said it on a number of occasions, offering far better value than a Samurai. And that's often what you get from these micro brands. You do get better value for money than the equivalent big brand watch. One more reason to go micro. Okay, next up, it's another of the new brands today. The second, it's Dorenzo. Now, you are forgiven if you have not heard of Dorenzo. They're not even on their third watch yet. Their third watch comes to Kickstarter next month. Their first, the DRZ Type 250F, I have not reviewed, so I cannot comment. But the DRZ02 was this incredible looking offering that I reviewed early on last year. Look at that case finishing, absolutely exquisite. Look at the design on the dial, it's a sandwich dial, it's bold round the edges, just looked like nothing I had ever seen before. I referred to those dial patterns as crop circles. I thought there was definitely something alien about it. But Swiss made, sapphire crystal, Solita 200 in the back, and actually wore very nicely. Indeed, that's a vegetable tanned leather strap. If you hear those words, vegetable tanned leather, in the same sentence, you know you're onto a good thing. Now, these were about 500 and something, I believe, when they came to Kickstarter. They've gone up a little bit, they're now just under 700, but as you can see there, most of the different designs, date, no date, variety of colours, most of them sold out already. But this is the one that I think you should be most interested in, the DRZ03, the Eclipse model. When I first saw the renders for this one, my jaw absolutely dropped. Truly a stunning looking retro inspired dive watch. Whiffa Blanc pan, touch of Rado Captain Cook, but a whole bunch of its own design inspiration in there as well. Just gorgeous. Those applied indices look fantastic on that dial. Love the handset. Everything about this watch just screams design, and I really appreciate it for it. This is obviously my own footage. I got a hold of a couple of these prototypes in early December. I've recorded the video. It's scheduled for release beginning of February when these go to Kickstarter. They're going to Kickstarter for $499 US. Now, $499 for a Swiss-made Solita-powered original design dive watch with this much work and effort having gone into it, I think this one will do very well indeed. I hope it does. They're doing that super retro old radium one. They're doing a blue dial one as you saw in the photos. There are also rumours of a red dial which I think will go off like a frog in a sock if they actually take it to production. A couple of changes from the prototypes, but I'll obviously tell you all about that in the review. They're going to change those mid links of the end link from a male protruding one to a female inverted one to get a better fit, and a couple of other things as well. But just a stunning watch. Once again proving original designs on micro brands for less than $500 are a reality. Of course they're possible. You just have to look around. And I think Dorenzo, again, another really exciting company for the future. That watch looks stunning. You can expect a review next month. At number 4, what would a roundup of my favourite micro brands be without Helm? I cannot speak highly enough about these watches. Kuroburi, Komodo and Vanuatu, 3 watches in the range at the moment, all dive watches. Now, I will admit I do not have a Helm in my collection. Why, Jody, you ask? Well, they're all 220 grams plus, so they're really on the big and chunky side. If you're a guy that likes big and chunky watches, then buy these with absolute confidence. Me, I prefer my watches a little bit lighter. I haven't quite found a Helm that suits me yet, but that doesn't stop them from being absolutely stunning and highly recommended. This is the Kuraburi. Look at that gorgeous domed sapphire crystal with a sapphire bezel insert, a rarity at any price, especially just over 300 US for this one. The lume is insane. All of these watches fabulously well machined. All of them feature Seiko NH35 or NH38, in this case the no date. Check that lume, absolutely ridiculous. Surely one of the best loomed watches that I've come across at any price, and it happens to be, as I said, just over 300 US dollars. Now again, Helm always sell out. Get your name on a waiting list, pay the deposit, do what it takes, get a Helm on your wrist. You will not regret it, I promise you that. As always, don't just take my word for it though. Check the comments in the videos. Try and speak to other people who have bought these watches for themselves. I would imagine there will be nothing but universal praise for them. They are absolutely phenomenal. What Matt the owner can do for the price. All of them ISO certified, tested by himself, and you even get a handwritten note thanking you for your business. Like I said, you don't get that from Seiko or a member of the Swatch Group, do you? Now the Komodo, that's their newest model, 40mm in diameter. All that you've come to expect from Helm, but in a slightly smaller package. Unfortunately not any lighter though. So for guys who have a slightly smaller wrist perhaps, but still want to get a big chunky 200 gram plus dive watch on their wrist. And it's not just the watch, you get a couple of extra straps thrown in, a polishing cloth, strap changing tool, etc, etc, again for 300 US dollars. Why can't every brand do this? Well, I guess they can, but they choose not to. But I think my personal favourite still is the Vanuatu, the epitome of the tool diver. Absolutely stunning watch. Super legible, it just begs you to beat it. And given how well these watches are constructed, I have no doubt that it would take a beating for many, many years to come. Again, insane lume on these ones. Really well priced accessories as well. If I sound like I'm on commission, unfortunately I'm not, because I reckon Matt sold a couple based on my recommendations as well. He should. Fantastic watches, Helms. As long as you don't mind a big chunky watch, these should definitely be on your prospective shopping list. And last but not least, it is Stratton, one of my old favourites. I think I've reviewed 4 or 5 different Stratton watches by now, and I've really enjoyed them all. You can pick up those driving gloves though if you prefer. Daily driver, classic driver, quartz chronos if you just want something Stratton on your wrist but without the price tag. Bullhead chronos. Who's making bullhead chronos these days? Kyle at Stratton is, because he just loves the things. My personal favourite though is this Special, achingly 1970s, this TV style case. Brown one there, look at the piece of glass. They're heavily styled, these Strattons, but I would not say that they were over styled. They're certainly not over branded, quite subtle branding on the dial. I guess there's so much else going on, they don't really need to slap the brand name all over them, but just a stunning, stunning watch, this one. Again, these don't tend to be the cheapest watches on offer. You're looking at about $275 up to just over $1,000 for a Stratton. But again, it's a bit of a niche product with a cult following, so most of these model runs have sold out over the years as well. This is the Curve Chrono, that was the first one I reviewed. The most recent one I reviewed was this new Tourer model. Look at that dial, a kind of organic wood grain sunburst there. Very, very interesting. A couple of different case sizes and case shapes, but a variety of different movements. There was a triple calendar shown here. The GMT that you just looked at, there's a 3-hander as well. So again, a number of options. These ones were relatively affordable, starting at $299, going up to about $599 for that GMT. Now, I know Kyle's working on his first Swiss watch. You can expect to see that one at some point over the course of 2020. Again, a man that knows what he wants from his watches, knows what he wants to do with his company, has a clear plan and is following it. So there you are, folks. If you want to start your own micro, don't just pick up a catalogue and go for a homage. There's plenty more original ways of doing things, as all 5 of these companies demonstrate. So there you have it, 5 relatively small companies that I think should definitely be on your radar if you're looking at picking up a left field watch over the course of 2020. ZLos, perhaps not for everybody. They're big, they're bold, they're 11 out of 10 in terms of the styling, but I think a great range offering great value for money. Helm, what more can I say about Helm that I haven't already said? Outstanding watches if you don't mind 220 grams plus of metal on your wrist. Stratton, bit of a polarizer, bit of a niche brand, but I think one that has a firm idea of what it wants to do, and as a child of the 70s, I love the retro look. Two new brands on the list this year as well. I think Trask Ax, the devil really is in the detail. The prices aren't necessarily cheap, but you get beautifully designed watches, and there's proof there that you don't have to just pump out Submariner homages to get a grip in today's market. And Lorenzo, again a little bit left field in terms of the design. They're not going to be to everyone's taste, but I think the designs are drop dead gorgeous, and the prices are very, very reasonable considering the level of originality involved. Like I said, if your favourite micro isn't here, please leave me a comment. Let's see what's on the list in 12 months' time. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.